these are what my notes look like. I'll often have what channel I have certain things on, because I record 4 tracks usually. Let me pass this around. So one channel is a boom, right? So you guys go over like sources yet, or multiple sources? So I usually have one channel recording this microphone, and then depending on how many talent I have or actors I have, I can record up to 3 more on a wireless. Everything you saw up there, with the exception of the one where they were at the fair, that one was all wireless microphones because we had to be real discreet. And then the other one, you know, with the dominatrix one, that one was all with a boom microphone because at the time that's all I had. Yep.
So Rudy, how'd you get started doing audio?
I got started kind of after your class, actually. So I took the class, and then someone found me through a referral, and they said, hey, we saw you on this set, can you do sound, we'll pay you. What they paid me was enough to like pay for the class, plus a little more, and so that's kind of how I got started. They're like, hey, you're actually pretty good. Actually, my first paying job was the one that you saw up there. It was a fair, the ones where that were at the fair. Sure.
So like when you're close up, you use the boom, but then when you're far away, what did you use?
Are you talking about a particular scene that you saw in the demo?
The fair.
The fair, that was all, they all had a wireless microphone on them. So they all had one of these on them. And it was very well hidden.
Yeah.
So like you couldn't see it, right? So that's part of being a good audio person, is you know how and where to hide the microphone. Yep. It's dancing? Okay, we'll take it off. So there you go. Is that better? Okay, cool. So there's all kinds of ways to hide a microphone on someone. Generally the best spot is like right here in the middle of the chest. So yeah, but in terms of how I got started, it was after your class. I'd worked on a set before. I got a referral, and then that was kind of it. Yeah.
So you got one job, and how did you get the second job?
Second job, that was probably another referral.
And the third job?
Probably another referral.
So most of your work comes from referrals?
Yeah, and just working with people on set, working with like, you know, here, like sitting in the classroom, like making friends with people that, oh, hey, you work really well, like let's team up on stuff. Sometimes like my classmates will call with a job. I can't do this. Sometimes I've called my classmates for a job. I can't do this job. You want to take over for me? So that kind of a thing.
Are you looking for somebody to help you?
Actually, I am. So let me fix my shock mount here. So yeah, I kind of like will hand pick from my classes. That sounds kind of like unfair, right? But if I see you like working, I see you hustling, I'll come talk to you and I'll say, hey, you've done good work. Did you want to learn sound? Some people are like, nah, sound, that's not my thing. I want to be a camera person. Okay, that's cool. But then that connection will also lead to like another referral. Like, you know, that person becomes a camera person and hey, they have a job, they need someone just dedicated to sound. So that kind of a thing.
So am I correct in saying that you handpick the people you train to work with you on your audio equipment?
Yes.
Because if they don't do a good job, it reflects badly on you.
Yeah, that's true. And I've had someone I referred to a job and she didn't want to take it because she wasn't confident that she would do a good job. And so she said, no, I don't want to do that because I might mess it up and then that'll make you look bad. It's like, oh, that's cool too, you know?
Do you pay the people that you hire?
I do. They usually will end up, because they're taking over for me, they'll get like a majority of it and then I'll just take like a tiny bit for my gear, that kind of a thing. It's only fair, right? They're doing the work.
So you won't get more work if you do a bad job. Your referrals will stop, I assume.
Yeah. Yep. Referrals will stop. Other things too is sometimes like taking on too many jobs. That's also a bad thing because you don't have time to like check your equipment and reset your equipment. So sometimes that's really like a no-no. It's like too much work can be a bad thing too. Yep.
So you actually have to turn work down
sometimes. Work down sometimes, yeah, or I'm too busy with my engineering gig, or like too busy with the news class. So you all take the news class, you all know what I'm talking about.
So be nice to Rudy, you might get some work out of it.
Yeah.
So Rudy, you got started by just, were you renting equipment? Where'd you get the equipment
Yeah,
from?
so I think my first piece of equipment was this microphone, which I still have, and then also like a small 2-channel recorder, which I don't have with me today because it's being borrowed. And that's how I got started. The Dominatrix one, that was all boom microphone. Yeah. So no one had a wireless on them. Do we all know what a wireless looks like? I should probably pass one out. Hang on.
Everything in post? All the video stuff was that all edited at the end?
That was edited. Yeah, I don't do a whole lot of the post-production audio, but what I try to do is when I'm on the set, I try to make sure that the post-production people have what they need. So, for example, in the Dominatrix one, I wanted to say, hey, let's just get some, let me just record the door closing or opening so that they had that, you know, just in case. They ended up finding something that worked better online, but just to make sure that they had that. In the one that was in black and white, when she put the cup down, I don't know if that piece was in there, but I said, hey, I need to get that sound, that kind of a thing. The whip was actually added in post. Yeah, I got some there, but it ended up not working. So they added that later, yeah. But it's giving the editor options. Let's say that the editor didn't have time to find a sound. Well, I got something that kind of matches or that kind of works, you know? So they can use that if they needed to. Pass this around.
Do most of your clients actually ask you for room tone?
No, okay, so here's my take on room tone, is that is a sound person's responsibility to get that, okay? Because what I just said earlier, right, you have to give people that are editing your stuff options. And you don't give them room tone, you're not giving them options. So you all know what room tone is? Okay, yep.
I have a question for that.
Sure.
For room tone, I know sometimes, like, okay, you're trying to get the sound of the ambience, but
Mhm.
say you move objects, does that interfere with the room tone?
Yeah, so I usually, when I get room tone, like I got my boom going, I got everyone on a wire, or wireless, and I'm like, all right, everyone needs to like be quiet for like 2 minutes. And it's not really 2 minutes, but I just need people to be quiet for 2 minutes. And then I'm real vocal when I'm on the set. If you worked with me or you've seen me in other classes, I'm real like freaking like, sound, speed, all right, everyone shut up, I need to get room tone, like that kind of a thing. And so if they're moving, to answer your question, if they're moving, yes, that does affect it.
Objects.
Like objects,
in
like,
the room.
is it objects for like you're actually shooting?
Yeah. Like say like a book is on this shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Would
But
that change the sound in the room?
that will change the sound in the room, yeah, so if someone's like pulling it off, yeah,
No,
that
not
will.
pulling it off, like just move, like taking it out of the room before they test.
Yeah, that stuff doesn't really
How
maybe
big,
affect it
how
too
big
much
does an object have to be in a room
to
to be
affect.
significant towards the sound?
Probably, well, I can't maybe answer that because I think it depends more on the placement and in terms of like where you're actually recording.
I'm just saying because
Yeah.
that happens.
So if I'm recording like maybe up here, like room tone, right? Maybe like all of the screens are gonna like affect it because they're so big and they block sound waves, right? Coming in. If I was maybe in the center of the room, maybe not so much, that kind of a thing. So you also want to try to, you know, place yourself in a spot where you're not going to get a whole lot of that interference and that room tone thing. That room tone, I guess you could call it room tone interference, you know. So if we were shooting something in here, like art is, you know, I'd probably like keep everyone quiet and we'd just be picking up like the hum of the air conditioner. Right? So you make sure you get that. So does everyone know the purpose of room tone? Huh?
For phasing out.
Sure, you can use it for phasing. What else? Did you see the piece that it was like the really bad acting with like the guy with glasses and they're like, oh yeah, it's free, right? That one? Okay, so did you hear a lot of like the traffic noise in the background?
Yeah.
Okay. So I recorded a good probably 3 minutes of traffic for that. And you notice like what's going to happen is when you cut, if someone's talking, you're going to hear like traffic like, and then it cuts, right? So it'll just be, and then it cuts to the other person, right? But it didn't, did it sound like that? It sounded like it was all at once going on. So that's the purpose of like your room tone, to do that. Now I took that one step further when we were editing it, and I actually took a piece of traffic that I really liked. And so what you're really hearing, if you isolate it, is traffic played forward, and then it plays backward. But there's a little bit of a mix in between, so you can't really tell. It just sounds like it's one seamless piece. Yeah. Does that make sense what I did? I recorded room tone, I cut a piece that I liked, and then I reversed it, and then when you play it back, it sounds seamless. Yeah.
Let's talk about your equipment.
He has the... When I was where? Oh, in the van? Yeah, so how we shot the van, yeah, so they had wireless tape next to them. And then I was actually sitting underneath, like in between the two seats. I had my boom like this, just kind of like doing one of those things. I was doing like one of these things. So you'd have what, the driver here, and the passenger here, and I was like sitting down. That fan was like cramped. It was loud too. So yeah, so I was just doing one of those things. Yep, just in between. Yeah, so in that case, yeah, typically when you're booming, you always want to be recording like up. Well, like you can't do that in the van because like, well, I'm going to hit it and be it so tight you might see it. So that was probably one of the only times that I was recording like kind of down low like this. Yep.
So you got your first piece of equipment, it was a microphone, then a portable recorder.
Recorder
what was your second,
and a
third?
stick.
What was your
Second,
first big piece of equipment?
First big piece was probably actually one of the wireless microphones and that set, because I realized like I could do a lot more with just having this plus that. So, for instance, I can record, and it sounds different on a boom versus something wireless and close up. So we could have a lot of fun with that. So that was probably my second piece, was like a wireless microphone. And then headphones are like a must. So let me write down the model of my headphones because they are awesome. Okay, so these headphones have been around for decades, and it's a Sony MDR, oops, $75.06. Okay, so now let's ask you guys a question. Why do you think headphones are important? Why am I not using Beats by Dre headphones? Or why am I not using like the things that come with your iPhone? Why do you think these headphones are really good?
You want a flatter response rather than the like the Beats. They're more.
Keep going. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you're exactly right. So on some of the specialized headphones, like the Skull Candy, right, headphones, or Beats by Dre, they're meant for certain kinds of music. Okay, so they will add or take away certain frequencies. So for example, if you have Beats by Dre that's meant for maybe more rap or hip hop, you might hear more bass, right? Whereas if you have something that's meant for like a band, you might hear some more of the higher frequencies. Well, when you're recording, you're trying to record it as clean and as accurate as you can. And that's why like these headphones are pretty even. They have a good flat, call it frequency response. Yeah.
How much equipment, what's the value of all your equipment? You've got a lot of gear there.
It's probably about just between, I want to say probably around 15 or 1600, somewhere around there. Actually, maybe no, maybe about two grand, like $2,000 to 2,200, somewhere in there. Yeah, because each of these are about that. Yeah, probably about 2,400, something like that.
How long did it take you to acquire all of it?
It's just probably over the course of maybe 4 or 5 years, kind of a thing. Because it's like I buy as I need and I buy as I can afford. Yeah.
And what would you do if you needed a piece of gear and you didn't own it?
I can borrow from people, which I have in the past. I can rent, and then I'll pass that on to my client. But I think for most of my jobs, I have everything that I need. Yep.
So what do you talk about to your clients when you are talking about a job? They've got a gig, they want you to show up at a certain place, certain time. What are the questions you ask?
The first question I ask is, like, where are we shooting? Because we're not shooting next to an airport, no, and we're not shooting next to a freeway, okay? So those are like the two most important things I ask. Where are we shooting? That's the first thing. Second thing I'm asking is how many actors do they need mic'd up, right? Or do they need a lab for? Because I can only do up to 3. I can really technically do up to 5 if I had to, but I need to know that ahead of time so I can make preparations. Does that make sense? So sometimes I'm recording on this plus, you know, my 3 labs, but those are the 2 major questions. Where are we shooting, and then how many actors do you need to be mic'd up, or how many actors are in any one particular scene? And then my third question is sometimes I ask them to send me pictures of the wardrobe, okay? Because I need to know if I'm hiding a microphone, how am I gonna hide it? Okay, where am I gonna hide it? Like, this is like no joke. One of the shoots I had, it was about a prostitute house. Yeah, so don't ask me. But they're like, yeah, just like show up. I was like, no, I need to know what they're wearing because I need to know where to hide this. And like, I had to get really creative in terms of how I had to hide the microphone. So, yeah. Okay, I'll let you think of that. Yeah.
Rudy, when you're miking people up,
Sure.
You're getting close to your talent.
Sure.
Do you have any personal rules for how you work with talent?
Absolutely.
The director?
Even though I'm not the director, yep. So you're asking in terms of like how I work with them to mic them up, right? Well, there's a few things that I keep in my bag, and I don't have all of it right now, but I have hand sanitizer in here, okay? And then I also have alcohol prep pads. So when people are coming to me to get mic'd up, I'm like, all right, I do all that stuff in front of them. I usually have mints in my bag too, so like I'll pop a mint, like I'll clean my hands with hand sanitizer, I'll clean the lab with like an alcohol prep pad just right in front of them. So they're like, all right, this guy's clean, okay? No, that's important. Okay, so that's important, yeah, because some of the people that are kind of at my level of sound, like they don't care. And they'll show up to the set with like freaking dirty fingernails, like their breath stinks, like they haven't showered, they're not clean, like they wear clothes that like don't allow them to like sweat, you know? And they're real dirty. So like when people started telling me like, hey, like, you know, like I work with people that smell and that are dirty, I'm like, oh, let me get some hand sanitizer and some alcohol pads and some mints and we're good to go. And actually, like, one of the emails was like, hey, are you the sound guy with mints? It's like, oh, yeah. So, yeah, like, you guys, like, laugh, but, like, it was, like, those things that actually brought back more work, you know? So, yep.
Have you
Sure.
ever, like, did any sound like music videos? I know that's, like, a different kind of technique.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
I did it once, and it worked, and here's why it worked. That's actually the next thing I'm going to be adding to my demo reel, is something like that. But the scene setting was like in a karaoke bar, and like in a karaoke bar, it sounds off and bad anyway, right? So we did it that way. We played it back off an iPhone, and then you know, she kind of sang along to it, and then we added the music later in post, and that was like, it sounds off, but it works because it's in a karaoke bar. So if that were to be done again, I think the way that I would need to do it is I would invest in some more gear where I'm actually playing it back and like the talent can actually hear it and sing along with it. Okay, so it's a little bit more like in sync, and then we'd have that same song kind of like playing back into the mixer. So that's how I would do it next time. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
For like music videos though, they usually don't they have it like pre-recorded and then once it gets to the scene, they just lip sync?
Yeah, they lip sync, but they're also playing it back on the they're usually playing it back on the set so that they can match the
yeah, right,
beat and all of that stuff. Yeah. So like I said, like my experience with that was like it worked, but it only worked because it was supposed to sound that way anyway. Yeah, because it's karaoke. Yeah.
Rudy, when you have to rent equipment, who do you rent from?
I will usually rent from Sammy's. They're kind of expensive. There's a guy in Pasadena, I forget what his name is, but I rent from him as well, out in Pasadena. Yes, I will travel to Pasadena for gear, especially if it's cheap. And then usually I'll have like a trip, so like I'm picking up gear and then like I'll go like visit with like production people or have my meetings that day and then come back. Yeah, so I'll do it like that.
Do you plan a day of prep for every day of shoot?
I don't, because most of my stuff doesn't necessarily require that. So it's usually just maybe a few hours the night before, something like that.
But you do prep?
I do prep, yep. So when I prep, I make sure that I always have a good amount of batteries. I always do that. I will always check to make sure that, where's my wireless microphone? Has it been passed out? Okay. So, thank you. So I'll always try to test my my microphones to make sure that they're actually working, because believe it or not, after a while you do have to replace these. They do get worn out and you do have to replace them, at least the microphone part. So make sure those are working. I'll make sure I have spares just in case something happens. What else am I looking at? I'm making sure like all my stuff works, that kind of a thing. And we can pass around my mixer too. Let's see.
Now, Rudy, you bring a lot of stuff that's not audio equipment. You just showed us tape and
Oh yeah.
you mentioned extra batteries.
Sure.
Notepad.
Notepad.
How about
Nope.
How about a light?
Oh yeah. So let's actually put that on. There we go. All right. So if you are going to work in, I guess, any kind of like production, it really pays to have one of these headlamps. And you look stupid when you wear it, but like you can get your job done like 10 times faster, right? So I have this because sometimes I'm working in situations where they put the sound guy in the dark. Sound guy doesn't see anything, right? Sometimes it's just the set that's lit and you're working in the dark, so you really have to be able to see. I'd recommend you get one that actually has a red light. Okay, does anyone know why red light's important?
Because it's just a red flicker.
No, because the camera can't pick it up as easily. Okay, so if I was like on the white side, right? Oh yeah, they'd be able to see that like nobody's business, right? But if it's red, it's a little bit more like discreet, and you can work a lot better and faster, and you're interfering with less. So that's the purpose of red.
Rudy, I remember that you bring a slate too.
Yeah, I do. I have a slate right here. Does everyone know? Okay, so we got to talk about my slate first. Okay, let's turn this off. Okay, so my slate, on the back of it, I have people that have, it's kind of morbid, but these are people in the industry that have passed away, actually on the industry, okay? So to honor them, I have their names on the back. So they're kind of like with me whatever production I go to, okay? Show that to the camera. Yeah.
Why do you bring a slate?
I bring a slate just in case the camera people don't have one. And I bring a slate because, what did I talk about earlier? You need to give post-production options, right? If you don't have a slate and you're not marking stuff, like, hey, that's not giving the editor options, right? So I always have one with me just in case. I don't have, like, you guys have seen all the fancy digital slates with all the numbers and all the time code sync and all that. Eventually I'll get that, but not right now. Hang on, put this up here. Start
When
holding
somebody
it.
hires you, they know that you're going to be there with covering their back with extra equipment.
Yep.
And what's the most important thing they hire you for?
Most important thing they hire me for is
But good
to
audio.
get clean sound. Like, really, that's it. Like some people, they've told me like, hey, we can do the sound, but like there's so much going on today, I don't want to focus on it. Like I've had DPs hire me, said I can just do it and plug it into my camera, but for this I want someone dedicated to just sound. So that's a majority of my jobs.
Do you work in any union categories?
Not yet. I'm trying to keep track of my hours for the union. And the sound union in Hollywood, it's IATSE 695. 695? Yeah, I think that's what it is. So it's IATSE. I think it's 695. It's the sound production, sound mixers and boom operators in Hollywood. So if you work on anything in Hollywood, any Hollywood feature film, anything for the studios, anything for TV, I think they're tied to that union when they do sound. That's for sound people. Actually, let me check it right now, just to make sure. Haven't checked it in a while. Where'd my phone go? There it is. So that's the union that is for sound in Hollywood. It's all like local IATSE 695, that kind of a thing. There's a separate union for makeup, separate union for camera people, wardrobe people. I even think editors have their own union too. So, yep, local 695. There you go. Sure. Yep. So that's the union right there, IATSE 695.
So what do you have to do to get in the union? Do you care?
Yeah, I guess I kind of do. Like when I first was like, oh yeah, let's do it. Like, I cared a lot more. So to get in the union, you have to work a certain amount of hours within, I think, 3 or 4 years, and they have to be verified. So I have like a log sheet with me that I'll ask a director to sign, and then I'll usually keep evidence of like a call sheet with me. You'll know what a call sheet is. Call sheet tells you like what time you're supposed to be on the set and where, and like who's doing what. And it usually has people's phone numbers on there, so in case you're in trouble, you can call the producer or the director, usually the producer. So I have that kind of a thing going on. It's usually just like just a grid with like the date, the project I worked on, what I did, and then I'll have a director or producer sign it with the amount of hours. And then I keep the invoice as a backup, and I keep the call sheet as a backup too. Yeah. So I haven't done as good of a job as keeping track of my hours, but that's kind of how it goes sometimes.
Rudy, when you're on location or on set, do you work alone? Just the audio guy by himself?
Yeah.
Do you have to coordinate with anybody?
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So if you were in the Durham's production class, like these guys were, I was kind of like ripping on camera people, right? Because everything that you do is for the camera. Everything that's there is for the camera. I'll show up to sets sometimes. It's like, what's your job? I'm the camera person. I'm the DP. What's your job? I'm the second assistant camera. What's your job? I'm the first assistant camera. What's your job? Oh, I'm the camera assistant. What's your job? I'm the camera production assistant. Okay. What are you? Oh, I handle the cards for the camera. They're like, what's your job? Oh, I'm sound. Like, yeah, what's up? It's just me, right? Like that kind of a thing. Yeah. So everything is really for how it looks. Okay. So you have to remember that going into sound. It's like everything is for how it looks. Every now and then I'll have, if I'm lucky, I'll have an assistant with me to help like coil cables and change out batteries and help me mic people up and test things. But for the most part, I fly solo. Yeah. That kind of a thing. If you're on a set, you want to make really good friends with the camera assistants. Does anyone know why, as a sound person, you want to make friends with your camera assistants? Anyone? Okay, but specifically camera assistants. Okay, why would you want to make good friends with a camera assistant when you're on a set? Anyone? If you answer, you'll get a free audio tutorial. If you answer correctly. Okay. So the reason you want to make friends with your camera assistants is because as they're setting up the shot, they can check the frame for you. So remember, this is pink. So like as you're getting set to boom, hang on, let me. Like, because a lot of times you can't see, so you're like asking, like you're asking, like, all right, am I in? Am I in? Am I in? No, 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 closer. Okay, you're in. So if you make friends with the camera assistants, you can have a friend on that side. So like, you know, they're not yelling at you, hey, the boom's in the shot, that kind of a thing. So that's why you make friends with your camera assistants. Okay. That's it's your best friend on the set. Other things, in terms, huh? Oh yeah, like all the time. So let me show you a technique for like when I get tired. you all love it. So like when I get tired, like holding this, like I have a step stool with me too. So like I'll get up on the step stool because it's like, and then eventually like towards the end of the day, you're gonna be dropping and dropping. So like I'll do something like that. Does that look awesome? Like rest on my head and just chill out, you know? So I'll do that if I get really tired, but there's usually enough variety that it kind of you can rest usually, unless it's like a 10-minute take, then you're like, dude, come on. About in terms of like what I actually wear on a set. Is that a question? Is that a good quiz question?
Sure.
What I actually wear on a set?
What do you wear on the set?
Okay, so let's see. Let me step up here. So what I'm wearing right now is like kind of like the Adidas, or like it's like a workout shirt. Like it allows you to breathe, that kind of a thing. So dry fit, Adidas, it's Climacool, that kind of a thing. So it allows you to breathe and you're real comfortable and you're real agile. So that's real important. The other thing that you want to wear is you want to wear shoes that don't make a lot of noise. Okay, because you never know where you're shooting. So I usually wear these like really soft shoes that they don't make a lot of like tapping noises. Yeah, because well, your sound and that'll get picked up. The other thing I do is I make sure that my phone is off, because well, you're the sound person, you should be setting the example, right? So just before our first shot of the day, I usually will call for people to turn off their cell phones or put them on silent, or I'll ask the assistant director to do it for me.
What do you do? What do you say to the director? What do you do when the sound, for some reason, on a take isn't good?
Sure. You have to tell them right away. Okay. So you can't like, because they're trusting you to like listen, right? They're trusting you that, hey, there was an airplane. Like, hey, there was this. Hey, there was that. Right. So they're trusting you to tell them like if something is going on, and you have to tell them right away. So right after the director yells cut, if something was messing up the sound, you have to tell them, right? Because otherwise you're not going to get hired again.
Do you ever yell cut?
No. Well, how I do it is I'll actually talk to the director or the second AD ahead of time, and I'll say, hey, if there's something bad in the middle of the take, how do you want me to handle it? Do you want me to like signal you with my eyes? Do you want me to like wave at you? Like, do you want me to say something in the middle of it? What do you want me to do? Because some people don't like to be directed during a take, and they want to do it after, and like that kind of a thing. So I should always ask, like, how do you want me to handle that?
Do you have any particular way of dealing with talent?
What do you mean, like dealing?
Any rules of
just
miking talent up?
yeah, just be real clean, and you're real professional. So like you know how like a surgeon like washes up before like they go operate on you? Well, like I do the same, like clean my hands with hand sanitizer, that kind of a thing. And the other thing that you want to do is you want to tell them exactly what you're going to be doing with that microphone. Okay, so I will always tell my talent, okay, we're going to be bringing this, like, usually what I'll do is I'll drop it, it's easier to drop it down their shirt. So I'll disconnect the mic, let's see. So usually we'll disconnect this.
Move forward so they can see it.
Sure. So usually we'll disconnect the microphone, and I'll be like, okay, let's drop this down your shirt, and then they'll do it. And sometimes they'll say, I'll do it, but I don't want to get slapped, that kind of thing. Usually they'll laugh, right? And then they'll be like, okay, this guy's cool. So, you know, they drop it down, and then I'm like, okay. And then I'll usually leave this like draped over just a little bit as I'm connecting it to the mic pack. So we'll do that. And then we'll hide the mic pack on them. We'll turn it on, we'll test it, and then I'll figure out some way to hide this. It's usually not with a clip. I usually have the clip taken off because it's hidden under their clothes. And I'll usually will tape it on them somehow. I've done things where I had to hide it in their hair. I've had to hide it in a hat. I've had to hide it in a necktie. I've hidden it in a collar. So there's all kinds of different ways to do things like that. Yep. Let's see. We still clean? Yeah? Okay. So that's that. In terms of cable management, I don't do a whole, like this, the audio bags are really pretty good. There's all kinds of like ways you can run cables in and out. For me, with this, it's fine. I just keep it coiled, keep it off the floor generally, and then I usually will clip it up here, whatever extra slack I have. And I'm free to like do whatever. And then in terms of like booming, do y'all know like the proper way to extend and retract? That's important. Okay. So when you're booming, here, let's come up forward. So when you're booming, generally like I'll have my pole like set like this so I can extend real easy. But you always want to extend the furthest out. So for instance, go that way, and then that way. You tighten, you're like, all right, I'm set. And then let's say like they're gonna adjust a shot. Okay, I need to bring it back. You retract like the closest one to you. So I'd do something like that. Can anyone tell me why that is? Why you do it that way? Yeah, it's more efficient. In terms of like the weight of the pole, you have more of it towards the back, towards your arms. So it's not, you don't have all this like front heavy weight stuff on there. And then like I mean, if I were to extend like from back here, all right, we're going further. Ah, crap. Okay, right. And then you're doing like this thing, you know, like wait, like which one is it? That kind of a deal. So then it just looks like you know what you're doing, because that's part of this business too.
So Rudy, last question for me is,
Sure.
You've got a lot of gear. You're
Yep.
set up to go run and gun.
I can.
Do you always carry the gear like that, or do you ever set up a station and work from it?
Yeah, so for me, this is like the most like comfortable, because I feel like this is like my desk. Like, you know, this is actually like, sometimes I'll have put like my water bottle here, and like I'll use one of these pouches for like a snack, and I'm like taking notes and doing my stuff on here. So it's like a portable desk, right? Sometimes if I know, for instance, we're in one location, like I'll usually set up on like a step stool and a chair, and I'll set this on there, and that's usually it. But I like to be like close to all my gear, so that's why I like this setup better.
Now today you brought a bag of gear as well.
I did.
If you were on set, would you keep that bag
I would.
handy, or would you carry everything with you?
I would typically take out what I need, which is usually like a couple of rolls of tape and extra batteries and things like that. And then this would be kind of put towards the back, and then try to have everything on here or on me, kind of a thing, or somewhere close by. Yep.
So Rudy, over the last few years, you've been doing a lot of work, freelance audio on films, on commercials, on whatever you can get your hands on.
Sure.
How often do you work? Once a week? Just weekends? I mean, you've got
yeah,
a full-time job
yeah.
as a civil engineer.
Yeah, so for most of my stuff, it's generally like nights and weekends. So sometimes after my day job, I'll book it up to LA, and then our shoots like start at like 7. They'll go to like 3 or 4 in the morning. I'll come back down, sleep, and then go to work. That's it.
Do you picture a time when you will be a full-time audio person?
I don't know, because my thing has always been news, and like on my path to news, I fell into audio. So I think ultimately my ideal job would be like I'd be working in news, and then I'd be doing like audio on the side still, kind of a thing. I think that's probably like, I picture my perfect life, like, oh, that's probably what it would be. Yeah.
Can you see a day when you could make a living, if you had devoted the time to it, to make a living just
Oh
doing
yeah.
audio?
Oh yeah. So let's talk about that too, because that's kind of important. Because in the industry, everyone I feel like wants to direct, everyone wants to run a camera, but there aren't a lot of people that want to do sound, and there aren't a lot of people that can do sound well, and there aren't a lot of people that can do sound well that actually have a demo reel. Okay. So if you want, sound is, I feel like it's the thing that if you want to get into the industry and get paid, I think it's probably like a good option for a lot of people, because for the reasons I said, there's not a lot of people that want to do it, and then on top of that, the equipment like lasts forever. Like how often do cameras change, right? Like every 6 months, right? How often do like, you know, computers change to edit video? Like every 6 months. What's 4K, 8K, 20K, right? Whatever. But with sound will always be like sound, you know. I've been on sets where guy has like a microphone, it's all rusty, it still works. He bought it like 20 years ago, right? Like I've been on sets where like the guy had like the same headphones as me, but they were jacked up. They still work, right? Whereas if you were a camera person, like you're constantly replacing your camera, right? So that's another reason why I think sound is
Any
a
other
little
questions for
more
Rudy?
paid.
What's your most proudest like work?
My proudest work,
Or your like what's something you're like, oh, I did this.
like the thing that I'm most proud of in terms of in the sound world, I think it's probably there were a couple of YouTubers that I worked for, and I didn't know who they were until like I worked with them, and then I looked them up, and I was like, oh my god, 2.1 million subscribers, like 1.5 million views like per video. And then like we saw the one that I worked on, and I was like, oh man, like that's crazy, like that many people saw it, but they don't know it was me. So so that's probably my biggest thing, is like, hey, I recorded sound for that, but people don't know that it was me. Yeah, that kind of a thing. So
What YouTube channel was that?
her name is Chloe Couture. Chloe Couture, yep. And it was the one where they were doing like a High School Musical spoof. Yeah, so if you find that, I recorded the sound for that one. So they're signaling. What do we got? 30 seconds, a minute, wrap it
No,
up?
let's give Rudy a big hand.
Oh yeah, Art has a question. Art has a question.
One last question. Holding a boom,
Mm-hmm.
what's the most often time you had to sneeze or cough and you made it through it?
Oh man. I actually just like fucked up the take. That like, cause like, you know, it's like you're gonna sneeze or you're gonna be like, you can't like wait, like, you know, you can't do that here. Should I do it for the camera? Like you can't be like, like yeah. So I just was like, sorry, like whatever, you know, and I put some hand sanitizer on after that. Yeah.
Good. And before we go, Rudy, what
Yep.
do we need? What does Art need before we go?
Anyone want an answer?
What was the question?
He needs room
need-
tone.
Room tone.
So
So everybody sit in place, be quiet. 1 minute of room tone.